about coping with uncertainty during and after COVID-19. And basically, today, this is for you guys. This is for us to kind of have open discussion. Whatever you guys decide to share, we're gonna do a lot of group work or a lot of, giving you a lot of opportunity to talk about kind of your thoughts. This isn't a lecture. This is an opportunity for you to give your input and your feedback, okay? Before we start with our discussion for today, I'd like to go around the room and do introductions. And as far as introductions are concerned, I'd like for you to basically tell me your name, your favorite book or movie, and one thing that you hope to gain from this presentation, okay? So we'll start with you.
My name is Nick Edwards. Favorite book or movie, I'm gonna say movie Apocalypto.
Okay.
And one thing you hope to gain from this presentation, I hope to learn more about trauma and how can I implement trauma training or education in helping those I work with and myself.
Okay. All right. Next.
Hi, my name is Susan Miles. My favorite movie, Love and Basketball.
Okay.
One thing I hope to gain, just more knowledge on trauma.
Okay. All right. Next.
My name is Galatia Everett. My favorite movie is The Wiz, and like Nick and Susan said, I want to learn more about trauma, but also how to deal with uncertainty and ways I can cope better, especially working with individuals.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Ethel Brown. My favorite movie is One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest.
Okay. One more time. What's your favorite movie?
The One That Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest.
Okay. All right.
I like funny movies.
Okay.
And I just want to gain more knowledge and understanding of trauma.
Okay.
My name is Ebony Poe, and I'm gonna go with a favorite movie because I got a lot of favorite books.
Okay.
So one of my favorite movies that I quite watch often now is Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
And I guess I'm here to learn.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody giving me your name and introducing yourself, as well as telling what your favorite movie is. And hopefully the things that you said you want to or hope to gain by being a part of this presentation, you will get that and hopefully a little bit more. All right? So before we really get started into going into what we're going to be covering today as it relates to uncertainty and COVID-19, we're going to have a little moment to do an icebreaker. So if you don't mind, take out your coping with uncertainty during and after COVID-19 word search.
Yeah.
And don't turn it over just yet, just pull it out.
I need a pen.
All right,
first,
let's
y'all.
make sure everybody's got a pen. I'm gonna give you guys
got an
some
extra
light
pen?
so you can
Got color
see.
pencils.
I don't want any excuses, so we're gonna turn the lights on so everybody can get a chance to make sure they have adequate lighting opportunities, okay? Does anybody need something to write with besides this?
I need a pen.
Need a pen? Okay, don't turn it over yet. All right, so you're gonna get 2 minutes, maybe 3 because I wanna be nice, maybe, but here's the thing. So you get 2 minutes, and your goal is to find as many words as you can out of the word search related to COVID-19 and uncertainty, okay? On your mark, before you start, okay? This is the prize. It's a $25 gift card / gas card, whatever you want it to be, for Quick Trip. So person with the most words that wins gets this, all right?
Give it to me because I gave mine away last time.
Okay?
That sounds like a personal.
All right? So everybody ready? On your mark, get set. I haven't said on your, I haven't said
See?
it. On your mark, get set, go. Make sure you put your name and today's date. And these words that you're gonna be looking for, these actually are words that are associated with uncertainty as it relates to not just COVID-19, but just life in general, okay? while you guys are doing that, let's give a little music to spark the room up, maybe. Let me see what I can find here. All right, you got like a minute and 30 seconds left. I might throw another 30 seconds just because. All right, guys. One minute left. Had some music going for you guys, but I guess the internet decided that it didn't want me to continue to play, so. All right, Mr. Nick, don't focus too hard. Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it? All right, 30 more seconds. All right, working on the countdown. 15. 14, 13, 12, 11, 11.5. Now I'm gonna really mess that up. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 5, the number for grace, another 5, 5 last time, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. How many people found all of them? How many people found all of them? All right. Count how many you found, and put it at the top of your paper. Count how many you found. As people that are like experts at these word searches probably have an advantage, but. All right. So count how many you found. All right. So no one found all of them. How many people found at least 10? Raise your hand. All right, so the people that found at least 10, 2 people. How many did you find? 15? Miss Sue, how many did you find?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You do that home,
I knew it, people that do word searching.
12,
This would be their advantage.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I think.
Okay,
You
well.
do word puzzles too?
Sometimes.
Okay. Clearly somebody do word searches. Okay, so we got 20 and 15, and so Miss Sue is the one that wins the gas card or the gift card. All right, so you got $25 worth of gas or whatever you decide to do.
You gonna follow me to
split
the
and
gas
share it with
station?
someone, feel free to share it with someone.
You're
Okay.
right.
I do appreciate you guys' participation.
I might
Just
have like
we-
$7 left over, y'all.
You said what now?
I might have like $7 left over.
$7, well, share with one of your colleagues or your family members or
I'm
someone.
just kidding, Sue.
All right, so basically now we're gonna get back to the PowerPoint. And like I said before, this presentation is gonna be very interactive. It's not gonna be lecture-based, it's gonna be based on us just talking and hopefully gaining some information and some support. We will kind of do some problem solving, looking at some questions that relate to COVID-19 and uncertainty, and some things that you've done in the past when it comes to dealing with uncertainty that you can also apply for today, okay? All right, now as far as our objectives are concerned, we're gonna define the meaning of uncertainty as it relates to COVID-19. We're gonna discuss past, present, and future coping strategies for dealing with uncertainty personally and professionally. We're gonna also identify how resiliency relates to the idea of uncertainty relating to COVID-19, and just not COVID-19, but other situations of life and circumstances, whether they are expected or unexpected, as it relates to trauma, stress, disaster, crisis, or anything like that. Also, we're gonna analyze and talk about the relationship among uncertainty, crisis, stress, and trauma, and how do those things connect with each other, all right? Others, last thing, to learn the benefits and barriers of normalizing uncertainty while coming up with healthy ways to express oneself regarding it. So these are the things that we're gonna try to focus on in this presentation. As I said, it is gonna be very interactive. We are gonna break off into some groups, and we're gonna talk about some certain questions that are already prepared that you guys kinda were able to kinda get an idea of before this presentation. So hopefully we'll have a lot of good feedback, all right? It's gonna be a lot of transitioning because of the fact I want us to be moving and really be involved and invested. And then we also have a creative opportunity where we're gonna do something at the end, wrap up and get you guys out of here, all right? Any questions so far? All right. All right, just before we start, the ground rules. Of course, you guys, we're all people in here, we're all professionals, so, and we're all students of life or students in school right now, and both. So what we wanna do is make sure we're respecting everybody in the room. We wanna make sure that, now, because of the situation, the dynamics of the room, we're not gonna do the catch the ball. But if you don't mind raising your hand, we will, you will be acknowledged that way if you wanna say something. Also, when people say something or give feedback or answer questions, we're gonna do a clap. All right, so we're gonna do like that. So on the count of 3, let's go ahead and practice our clap. If someone does something or says something that we feel like is noteworthy, or I'll probably kind of say, all right, I think they deserve a hand, let's do it together. 1, 2, 3. All right, and if we feel like we need to give them extra love, we might do a double clap. So I want us all to be on the same page. You guys know what I mean. So on the count of 3, we're gonna do a double clap. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's practice that one more time. We're gonna try to do a double clap maybe. Let's be in the same singing. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're gonna keep going. Basically, want you to be present. Hopefully, want you to participate, give your feedback, gain feedback, and then most of all, participate. All right, the teaching strategies, or the way in which this presentation is gonna be given to you. Engagement, a lot of talking, conversation, or interaction. Dialogue, encouraging you. Enthusiasm. Hopefully I'm bringing energy that you guys are feeling right now in relation to the topic. I know it's a Friday, I know it's been probably a long week, but hopefully you feel pretty connected based on the topic and for the fact that you said that you had some things that you hope to gain from this presentation. Also empathy, considering where your walk is and where I've been and where the whole group has been. Considering one another, appreciating one another's experiences and sharing those. And also empowerment, looking at our good and bad experiences with uncertainty, bridging them together to make something better, or make something positive, or have a sense of progress from them, okay? All right, something to think about. Now we're going into our discussion, something to think about, and by the way, this PowerPoint will be available for anybody that wants it. So, feel free, if you don't wanna take as many notes, that's fine. Feel free to just ask me and I will provide it for you. But some things to think about before we break off into our other groups, which we have other questions for that you'll be given, just to get our discussion going. What words come to mind when you think of uncertainty? Anybody? What words?
Fear.
Fear, okay? And I'm going to do this, if you guys don't mind. I'm going to write them on our board right here, okay? So, you said fear, okay? Anything else? When it comes to uncertainty, anything else? Yes.
Confusion.
You said what?
Confusion.
Confusion? All right, so we already owe 2 claps right now. So, on the count of 3, if you guys don't mind, let's give a clap for Mr. Nick, and then we'll give a clap for Miss Sue. 1, 2, okay, let's start all over. You guys are way above the game, all right? All right, so we gotta give our clap to Mr. Nick. 1, 2, 3. All right, and then Miss Sue, she just gave an answer about confusion when she thinks of uncertainty, so let's give her a hand. 1, 2, 3. All right, so far we got fear and confusion. Anything else? When we think of the word uncertainty,
Doubt.
what comes to mind?
Doubt.
Doubt, okay? So we got doubt. Okay, let's give another clap. Okay, we got one person that's already ready to clap. Let's try to do it again together. 1, 2, 3. All right, so these 3 words, fear, confusion, doubt. Anybody else got anything else? When you hear the word uncertainty, anything else come to mind? I'm thinking about maybe 2 more words in particular, maybe 3. Starts with an A. One word starts with an A that I'm thinking about. When it comes to uncertainty, a word that starts with an A when it comes to uncertainty. Think about it. It's also connected to diagnoses. When it comes to people that have been diagnosed with certain things, a lot of times it goes hand in hand with depression. Anxiety. So let's give Miss Ethel a clap. 1, 2, 3. All right. And then the next word starts with a W. Starts with a W. Rhymes with hurry.
Worry.
Worry. Let's give Mr. Nick another clap. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. All right. And then last but not least, there's another word, starts with an S. Stress. Let's give Miss Ebony a hand. 1, 2, 3. All right. We need to do that all together. 1, 2, 3. All right. So these words right here, fear, confusion, doubt, anxiety, worry, stress. These are words that we have said come to mind when we think of the word uncertainty. Okay? All right, let's go to the next thing. How does uncertainty relate to COVID-19? How does uncertainty relate to COVID-19 right now? Based on our experience so far with COVID-19, the uncertainty with this pandemic, what is the relationship to uncertainty? What is the relationship to COVID when it comes to uncertainty? Right now.
Will I be affected? How long will it last?
Okay.
How does it affect me emotionally, financially,
Okay.
spiritually? Older members in the family, how they might, because they easily, can get affected by it, how quick that it would attack them.
Gotcha. So it's a lot of things that we're thinking about. Will it happen? Will I be affected by it? Will I be infected by it? How long is this thing gonna last? How many people have asked that question? Raise your hand. How long is it gonna last when it comes to COVID? Right? How many people have considered, well, how will this possibly affect me, and not just me, but my family? How many people are concerned about their family right now when it comes to COVID? Right? And the uncertainty part, or the unknown of how things are gonna turn out, if you're not careful, can do what? Create what?
Stress.
Lots of stress, and that stress can then turn to what? Lot of worry, anxiety, and fear, and then that can turn into what? Trauma, or crisis and trauma. Because why? We feel like we don't have enough resources or supports to what? Deal with the situation at hand, right? But here's the thing. Is uncertainty a part of life? Yes or no?
Yes.
Please write that down somewhere. Uncertainty is a part of life, okay? Uncertainty is a part of life. All right, so uncertainty is a part of life. And knowing that, it helps us to look at the other questions. What do we know about COVID-19? That is for sure. What do we know? It's a pandemic. What else? What else do we know about COVID? Anything?
There's no cure.
There's no cure right now. There's no vaccine right now, right? We know that practicing what? Social distancing can help to what? Not necessarily take it away, but help to mitigate it or minimize it. So there are certain things that we know about COVID. There are certain things we don't know. So when it comes to uncertainty, it also includes what? Knowing and not knowing together. Okay? All right. And what is uncertain about COVID-19? We've already answered that. We don't have a cure. We don't know how long it's gonna last, okay? So these are things that are very important for us to keep in mind when we're thinking about COVID-19 and when we're thinking about uncertainty, okay? All right, now for teamwork. Because of the sake of time, we're just gonna basically answer one question. So right now, if this group right here, if you guys will go together, you three, all right? And you guys answer question 1. And then your group right here, you guys are going to answer question 2. And then we won't worry about question 3, okay? And I'm gonna give you guys 1 minute. I'm gonna give you 1 minute to answer that question. Actually, I'll give you 2 minutes. Give you 2 minutes to look at, you guys are doing question 2, you guys are doing question 1, and just maybe jotting down some ideas, okay?
You finna type on
So
that?
take 2 minutes, really quick.
Back to this.
You don't have to do anything for a
I'm
long
sorry.
time, just take 2 minutes.
Why do we have problems with the
Well, just
idea of
answer for you
uncertainty?
guys, and then we're gonna share it with the group, all right?
I know. Come on, so I got some ugly handwriting.
Okay?
Not feeling like I have control.
Okay, that's great. And I
Just
know,
take 1 more minute, because we're briefly, this is
Fact of
following
not
up with
having
what we talked
control.
about. Okay?
shoot, that sums me up. What else? Why do we have problems?
You can prepare for it.
Yeah, can't prepare.
All right, group, you guys don't mind? If you don't mind stopping where you are right now and telling me what you came up with. So for number 1, if you guys don't mind reading that question and give me your answers, and then group 2, if you guys will read your question and your answers.
You
All
should
right.
take it up for Galatian.
Okay?
Why do we have problems with the idea of uncertainty? 1, because it is unknown.
Okay?
2, there is no control,
Okay.
not my control, and can't prepare.
Okay, so why do we have a problem with uncertainty? We can't control it, we don't know how it's gonna work out, basically, and what was the thing you said that was
You
last?
can't prepare.
You can't prepare for it. So COVID-19 was something that we couldn't prepare for.
Right.
We didn't know it was coming. It happened out of nowhere. So a lot of times with uncertainty, the prereq of uncertainty is what? Usually unexpectancy, or vice versa. Sometimes you can not know and still have, expecting something to happen, but still be uncertain about how it's gonna turn out with the outcome. All right, group 2.
It says, what are people doing to face up to the uncertainties of COVID-19?
Okay, and this deals with coping skills,
and maintaining health,
maintaining health,
staying connected to faith,
stay connected with faith,
spending time in reflection and meditation.
okay? Okay, so basically maintaining faith, spending time reflecting, like every day there's so many things that are being told and being said, right? So we gotta make sure we're taking care of ourselves when we do this, when we're dealing with uncertainty. We gotta make sure we're taking care of ourselves first. So that's first things first. When you're dealing with uncertainty, you got to take care of you first and then go to the next person, right? So when it comes to COVID, make sure you're focusing on yourself and then extending that hand to someone else. Okay, so we've already did the team answers, we've already talked about that. These are just things of healthy ways of dealing with uncertainty as a person and professional. Self-care, make sure that you're eating, sleeping well, eating well. Make sure that you're engaging in meditation, prayer, you have a support network, that you focus on resiliency and things you've done in the past, making sure you're doing that. And making sure that you're promoting self-care and not just self-care for yourself, but promoting self-care and working with other people, okay? All right, as far as application, how does uncertainty relate to stress, crisis, and trauma when dealing with COVID-19? How does uncertainty relate to stress, crisis, and trauma when we talk about or when we're dealing with COVID-19? Anybody? How does it relate? Anybody?
I think, just the uncertainty, not knowing whether you're gonna have a job or, not knowing, we talked about some of whether, you know, our families are gonna be affected, not knowing whether we are gonna be affected, by COVID-19, you know, how long this thing is gonna last.
So that can start out as stress, and then that stress, if you don't put it somewhere every day, and you're constantly hearing, and we're constantly seeing all the people with masks, we're wearing masks, we're trying to practice social distancing, if we're not constantly checking in with ourselves, that can open up the door to what? Us going into crisis, right? And crisis means I got a lot hitting me, and I don't know how to deal with it all at one what? Time. And I've run out of resources, I've exhausted my resources. And then when crisis happens, if that's left unchecked, then it can turn into what? Trauma. Where we try to what? Avoid, we start having flashbacks. I mean, think about it. People that have been out of work for months as a result of COVID-19 that have just started back, and people getting just scared, just their reflex, that can lead to people already being traumatized, right? How people interact in the store now. Have you thought about that? When you go to the store now, how you're like wiping and you're very conscious.
But just, and
It's
I
a
think
lot.
how people interact with us, I'm sorry, Ralph.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
How people interact with us, because I mean, I find it offensive, you know, when somebody has on, I was in the store one time and some, you know, one of the workers had on a mask and I was asking where something was, and you know, we was like a distance, it wasn't a person, but at a distance, you know, and he was like, stand back there, and of course, my attitude changed, because I'm like, I'm not trying to get close to you, you know, but that was offensive to me, that you have on a mask, like, I'm the one who should be scared, that's how I took it, like, I'm the one who should be scared, and I don't like being out in public when, you know, people, if, I feel like if you're scared, stay home.
Gotcha. And I know I just, like in what you just said, I've noticed like in myself, and I've had this self-talk to myself, like, the more, I don't know if you guys have noticed, the more you're wiping things down, the more you start to get hyped up.
Yeah.
Anytime you put the mask on, it can possibly open up for, you feel that way. And if we already have COVID stress, and then we got the other types of stress going on, right? We have what? School, some of us are in school, you have families, we have different things, we have the job, and being that we're working in the helping profession, that in itself brings about stress. So on top of that, every day, if we're not putting it in different places, with COVID being very vital, it could lead to crisis. And that crisis might cause us to shut down, have compassion fatigue, and just become numb. And when that happens, it opens the door for trauma. And sometimes traumas that we've had before can be triggered because of what it might remind us of something that we might have gone through before. Yes.
Not to mention the people who don't get tested because they feel like, due to the lack of education, because they don't see any symptoms or feel like they don't have any symptoms and they don't get tested. And it's really clear as of the last 2 months, it's easy to be a carrier with no symptoms.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And right now, let's give ourselves a hand, because everybody's been participating. That in itself, I've heard like somebody mention, like, there could be people that might not even know, but they're carriers of it, and how that's gonna affect. So the bottom line with uncertainty, we can take away is what? Uncertainty is part of what? Life.
Life.
So on the count of three, we're gonna say it together. Uncertainty is part of what?
Life.
We can't avoid uncertainty, but we gotta know how to what? Deal with it in a way that's what? Not unhealthy. We don't have to numb ourselves, we can face it. But as professionals, students, and professionals in the helping profession, we have to take the steps necessary. We know that there are certain things that we can do. We can't dictate uncertainty and how things are gonna turn out, but we can help to minimize the possibility of spreading or being contracted with COVID-19. And that's by what? Making sure we're washing our hands, social distancing, making sure that we're using different, keeping our hands clean throughout the day and practicing those types of things. Making sure we keep our people, minimum a certain amount of people in a certain area. These are things that we can know for sure that we can do, but then the other outcome, if you apply the serenity prayer, we have to what? Things that we can't do anything about, we have to accept, and we have to know the wisdom to determine what we can and cannot do, all right? So real quick, I know we've gone a little bit over time. I want you just really quick to take out your little canvas that you have. You take out your canvas that you have. Everybody should have a canvas. I want you to write something really creative, a mantra, or something that you can say to yourself during these times of COVID to help encourage yourself. And you can just write it on your canvas. So just take a second and write it on your canvas. Get you out of here. Just take a second to something that you might already say to yourself, something that you already have been saying to yourself during COVID that has been helpful for you. And just remember, based on Proverbs 18:31, death and life is in the power of the tongue. So your words matter during COVID. During uncertainty, we have to speak hope. We have to speak sense of peace, love, gratitude, various things like that. Remember the grace point, the grace model that I gave you guys the handout. Gratitude, resiliency, acceptance, courage, compassion, empowerment, engagement. It's key. So it's something you can say to yourself. Okay? So while you're finishing up, if anybody wants to share while we're wrapping things up, what did you put that you can say to yourself or you choose to say to yourself? Right? Anybody want to share?
Life has positive meaning.
Okay, life has positive meaning.
I said
Thank you,
a
Ms.
lot-
Ethel.
A lot of stuff, but I put God is in control, so my life will never be out of control.
I like that, okay. I like both of those so far. So you said that, say that again?
God is in control, so my life will be never out of control.
Okay. And that's something that you created. That's pretty good. All right. Now, have you been saying that to yourself? Okay. All right. Miss Susan, what you got?
Life, health, peace.
Life, health, peace. All right. Mr. Nick, what you got?
Oh, man. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
And my own personal, which is it's a combination of what you have with grace, is that I use this term, I am a concrete gladiator.
Okay.
So I use that term, and it's with resilience, acceptance, and, courage. I go places Russell Crowe will never go.
I hear that. I hear that. All right.
I
Ms.
didn't
Rick.
put anything.
That's okay.
Cause I can't think like that, I have to bring my
I know yours
quiet
is.
space
Okay.
to,
Well, you take
Be
your canvas
creative.
today, you take your canvas today with you.
when I'm sitting on my deck, that's
Yeah.
what it comes to.
So you take your canvas today, whenever you feel inspired, you come up with something. And if you wanna share with the group, please share with us, through email or text, all right? All right, so wrapping up, what stood out to you guys today? What was this helpful? Was
What's
it
the-
helpful at all?
What stood out to me is that, you were good. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why, because, everything flowed, you know, it was consistent.
Okay,
You know, you kept everything good and tight and at the point, and what we're actually talking about, and it didn't go all over the place.
absolutely.
So, like just from the very beginning, from when you started, I had an idea of where this was gonna go,
Got you,
and then you kind of just took us on this quick journey. So I really appreciate presentations like that.
got you. Okay. Anybody else? What did you guys get? Did we learn anything that we already knew that we needed to be reminded of when it came to COVID or anything like that? What can you take away to help you personally and professionally? Anybody? What can you take away?
I don't mean to dominate, but
That's
it's like,
okay, that's all right.
I'm on the winning hand if I don't allow my stress to turn to crisis.
That's it.
So I stay way ahead of the game with the trauma.
So remember, stress, crisis, trauma, right? If you sense that you're getting stressed, go ahead and release it, because you don't want it to, it's turned into like an estuary where it opens up to crisis, and that opens up to trauma. Because trauma is inevitable, you know? Trauma will be connected to uncertainty. It is trauma with COVID-19. We're dealing with a pandemic. That in itself can be traumatic, the things that we're dealing with. But it's a matter of how we're dealing with these things that's gonna count the most. What we can't control, we let go, and what we can control, we be grateful for.
So trauma is inevitable, to suffer is optional.
It depends on, now, that's a whole different conversation. And unfortunately, I've already gone over 30 minutes, and I told you guys that it was only gonna be 30 minutes. So we're gonna hold that for part 2 of the training, but I do like what you said. I do have a view about that, and I'll be glad to share it after. What would you further want to address related to this topic, maybe, if we were able to do more stuff? Because I'd like to do something where we're doing something where we're touching bases, because I think it's important for us, working with other people, but just taking care of ourselves, we need to have each other, we need the support. So, is there anything further you would want to address relating to the topic? Anything, anybody?
I guess I would say, I don't know, self-compassion, if that makes sense.
Self-compassion. Okay,
Um,
okay. I think that's a good one. Let's give Miss Ebony and everybody's participating another hand. All right. And how would we apply something discussed today, personal and professional? I think we've kind of already hinted to that, with what can we take away. I know right now, with not just COVID just happened, now look at what we're dealing with now with the situation with, George Floyd. So remember, there's so many things happening right now simultaneously, but at the end of the day, we've established that uncertainty is part of life. We can't control uncertainty, but we can control how we respond to uncertainty, okay? Thank you guys for being a part of this, thank you guys for being helpers, and thank you guys for being you most of all. Blessings and love,
Okay.
all right? Thank you.
What I wanna,
Hold on.